What up, guys? Hey, it's been a while. Let's go ahead and jump right in and talk some science.
Put the place up. Put my face up.
Okay, so we're in 2020. Coronavirus is pretty much just wreaking havoc throughout the world, particularly in the United States. It's causing a lot of cases, causing a lot of deaths. We all get the picture. However, Monday morning, we woke up to some promising news. Pfizer, the pharmaceutical company, made some reports about their vaccine that's currently in development. So basically, Pfizer, they're in their last stage of their vaccine trials, and they were able to get some preliminary results. And it showed that their vaccine is not 50% effective, not 60%, not 70, not 80, but 90% effective so far. And when I looked on my phone and saw that, I was like, oh, okay. Because nobody was expecting that at all. Like, 90? Like, good Lord. Now, some of you may be wondering, yo, is this hype actually real? Should I get on the hype train while I was still at the station? Or should I pump the brakes a little bit? Or is this all just being blown to our proportions? Well, I'm here to tell you that this is promising, but not to get too hype about it. And I'll go into a little bit why that is, why we should be hopeful, but also caution on the side as well. Okay, so Pfizer, they're in their late stage trial of their vaccine. They started that late stage in July of this year, so late July, I think. Basically, 44,000 people got signed up for it. Half of them got the vaccine, half of them got a placebo, which is like a mild, like salt water shot in a way. So it was like a control group. And the goal was to wait until 164 of those participants developed COVID. It's also important to know that an independent board is overseeing this trial. So neither the patients, not the doctors, not even Pfizer, they have access to the data right now. Because an outside source is looking at it, they're giving it their unbiased opinion, their unbiased conclusion about the data that they're seeing. So during this trial, they kind of set up like checkpoints for them to see if the vaccine was actually being safe and being effective. And these preliminary checkpoints were after 32 people had developed COVID. The second one was, I believe, after 64 people developed COVID. There's a third one that I was not able to find, but I'm assuming that's in 100, maybe 120. And then the final one is a 164 where they would close the trial. So this first preliminary analysis was supposed to come after 32 people in that trial had developed COVID. But with discussion with the FDA, they were kind of skeptic of whether that would be data coming from 32 people wouldn't be really convincing enough to say anything. They felt that number was too small and that they should probably wait until they got to 64. And so after that discussion concluded and they decided that they were going to wait till they got 64, they looked at their data and 94 participants had developed COVID. That's over half of the people they needed in this trial because they're waiting for 164 to end the trial. So the independent board decided to get together, look at the data, and compare how many people from the placebo or the control group got sick and how many ones that got the vaccine had got sick. Now again, since the independent board is seeing this, they didn't disclose too many details, so they don't even know. So Pfizer doesn't even know how many cases came from which group. So they don't know how many exact cases came from the placebo group, how many exact cases came from the vaccinated group. But if, let's say, a vaccine is 100% effective, then you would expect that all your COVID positive cases came from the placebo group, because that means none of it came from the vaccine, so it's 100% effective so far. So the fact that it's over 90%, that's saying most of these cases are coming from the placebo group or the control group. And I mean, this is definitely promising indeed. I mean, at the start, FDA was just hoping for, look, just one of you guys, one of the vaccine developers, just hit at least 50%, and that should be good enough. And when I heard that back, I think like a few months ago, back in the summer, I was like, 50%? Well, that's not going to do too much. I mean, good news is that vaccine is probably going to be safe, but it's not going to really probably do anything. So to put that in comparison, the flu vaccine, the seasonal flu vaccine, that's predicted to be about 60, maybe 70% effective. And I tend to joke on the flu vaccine to where like it's hit or miss. If you get it, you still not gonna get the flu because that virus mutates like crazy. And I say that it doesn't hurt to get it, but if you miss it, you're not missing out too much. But if it's coming out 90%, like this preliminary data is showing, that's comparable to vaccines such as the measles vaccines. And who gets measles in the United States anymore? Like, come on. How many people do you know that had measles in the United States in the last few years? Like, that's how strong that vaccine is, and that's the potential of this COVID vaccine. So yes, this is very positive results, and very promising. But why should we be careful about the hype? Well, the obvious thing is the trial is still going on. I mean, it's only halfway over. The data is preliminary, so we don't know the whole entire picture yet of that trial. Another thing to keep in mind is this news was delivered through a kind of like a press conference or a news release. It wasn't through a peer-reviewed medical journal where you have other scientific peers looking at the data and critiquing it and giving you constructive feedback on it. And while so far there hasn't been any safety issues over the trial, this data is not really yet conclusive to tell you that this vaccine is safe and effective. It's preliminary data, so it's not entirely conclusive yet. And that percentage at 90% can also go down over time. The participants in that trial, they also got to be monitored long-term to make sure they don't develop any long-term health issues or if there are any safety problems. And we don't know how long that vaccine is going to be protected for. So if this vaccine is effective but only works for like 2 months, then I don't know if it's going to do us that good. So there's a lot of questions that's still involved. And we haven't seen the actual detailed data yet. Because again, that outside board is looking at this data. They're reviewing this trial, and they haven't really disclosed it to anybody yet. Not even the company, patients, doctors, nobody. So we don't know anything about mild versus severe cases, maybe age, gender differences, or gender and race. There's a lot that we don't know about yet. So basically, there's still waiting that needs to be done before we can really make some conclusions and get hype about it. But keep in mind and rest assured, this is very promising indeed. This is actually some good news about this whole pandemic going on so far. And this is also good news for the other 10 companies that are also in their last phases of this vaccine. Because from what's being reported, those 10 companies conducting their late stage trial, they also using a similar technology, the similar blueprint for the vaccines as Pfizer is. And I won't go into it right now what the blueprints or the mechanisms of the vaccines are, because while they are similar, there are some differences. And I don't want to confuse you guys, especially if I start talking about one, let's say Pfizer, and let's say they end up pulling out because something goes wrong, and you guys had to kind of forget about that blueprint and worry about another mechanism from another company. So I'll set that for another video, but that's why I just haven't mentioned it, just to let you know. So what next? Well, Pfizer, they still had to finish their trial. They're only at 94 participants that developed COVID. So they're waiting to get to 164 to finish that trial. The way with COVID is developing right now, they'll probably get to that very, very quickly, I imagine within the next couple of weeks. And then they want to get at least 2 months of safety data before they apply for emergency authorization for the FDA to have these vaccines distributed. They are hoping by the end of 2020, end of 2020. Can't wait to get there. But anyway, they're hoping by the end of 2020 to manufacture enough doses to have about 15 to 20 million people vaccinated. Now, likely those will go to the high risk people first. If I had to make a guess when they have enough for the public, if everything checks out, maybe April or May. I honestly don't know. That's just my best guess. But we just gotta wait and see. And speaking of distribution, I kind of want to clarify something real quick that's kind of being confused of the U.S. involvement with Pfizer. There's a lot of conflicting reports going on, but let me just tell you what's actually happening. So when COVID first got started, the U.S. developed an operation called Operation Warspeed, which is just a terrible name. But I'll say that for another video. Just know I cringe at that name. Anyway, that operation focuses on giving money or funneling money to those vaccine developers to pay their research, their development, their manufacturing, and their distribution. It's not to cut corners on safety. They're still following all safety protocols. But now that these developers have money, they can just go forward with the vaccine with no remorse or no potential consequences of them losing any money. So back in July, Pfizer and the Trump administration agreed on a contract. It's more so like an investment, like a bet or something, that will pay Pfizer $2 billion once the drug is approved and the first 100 million doses have been distributed in the United States. But something very important to keep in mind, this is a separate contract. This isn't Operation Warspeed. So Pfizer is in no way involved in Operation Warspeed at all. They're just being paid for distributing the vaccine once it finishes. They weren't being paid for their research, their development, their manufacturing, none of that. The reason why Pfizer didn't want to get involved in Operation Warspeed is because they didn't want to get too drawn out with the contract negotiation. They want to really get into their trials. And they also wanted to avoid American politics, which is smart. So speaking of which, you guys may remember that President Trump had promised a vaccine to be developed by Election Day. And where you guys may wonder, like, where did that come from? You guys remember when I had mentioned that they had checkpoints in that vaccine trial to where they would check at the 32, at the 64, 100 something, and 164 people got infected, that they would do those like safety checkpoints. Well, the first safety checkpoint, which was like after 32 got infected, they were supposed to do that, I think, in late October, mid-October, or something like that. And the CEO of Pfizer was communicating with President Trump about updates with the vaccine. So even though they weren't involved with Operation Warspeed, they were communicating with the administration, just letting them know, like, hey, this is what happened, this is what's happening, but we're going to let the science speak for itself. We're going to let science take its time and make sure that it's safe. And the CEO of Pfizer also mentioned that come this first checkpoint, they will be able to tell whether this vaccine might be safe and might be effective for the public. Now, just to clarify something, there's a difference to letting somebody know that a vaccine might work and where there's a vaccine that's going to be developed. I don't know let me just get that clear. I don't know if there was any miscommunication, lies, confusion. I'll let you guys decide that. But yeah, telling somebody that a vaccine might be safe and it might be effective versus one that's downright ready to go to the public, they're two different things. And that's where that statement came from. So it didn't have to deal with anything that they waited until after the election to do the result. There's no theory about that. That's completely bogus. They're just letting science do the work like scientists should. So yeah, it'll definitely be interesting what these next few weeks will tell us about this trial. So, long story short, don't get too excited, but it's very promising and this is good news. And that's all I got. Thanks for watching. Hit that like button and subscribe if you're new. I'm going to try to start putting the science channel, science communication videos up here more often now. I had a lot going on lately and that's why I kind of stopped doing it, but I need to get back into it because I love doing this. It has benefit. It's one of my more well-received videos. So it requires some work on my end, but hey, it's worth it. Also, feel free to check out any of my other videos here, there, or there, wherever I put them. Not only with science communication videos. I play games, so I tend to have a good time, and my light just went off, but I'm just going to ignore it. So, and hopefully this camera came out well because I'm doing something different. But yeah, so hope you guys enjoyed. Until next time, peace.